I'm 34 and I've been clean for a little over 4 months. People keep telling me that should feel like the beginning of something, a reset, a victory, a clean line between the version of me that was falling apart and the version that might finally build a life worth keeping. The problem is that getting clean didn't magically reveal some beautiful hidden future. It just forced me to look directly at the wreckage. For most of my life, weed was not just a habit, it was my rhythm, my sleep aid, my stress relief, my reward, my escape hatch. It made boredom softer and pain blurrier, which felt useful for a long time until it didn't. I built my whole adult identity around being functional. The guy who smoked too much, sure, but still held a job, still paid bills, still showed up, still got through the day. That illusion lasted longer than it should have. I work in IT, systems administration mostly. I've been with the same company for 8 years. For a while, that job was the one stable thing in my life. Good boss, flexible schedule, enough autonomy that I could pretend I had my life under control even when I absolutely did not. A few years back, I got out of a 7 year relationship. She left, and honestly, I deserved more of that breakup than I admitted at the time. I had lied about smoking, quit and relapsed, quit and relapsed again. There is a specific kind of damage that comes from making promises with total sincerity and then betraying them anyway. You don't just lose other people's trust, you start living outside your own. After that breakup, I got close to a coworker. He became one of those people you think is safe because he saw you at your worst and still stayed. He came over, helped me move, listened to me complain. Then I found out he had been seeing my ex behind my back while assuring me nothing was happening. I worked beside him for over 2 years after that. I'm telling you this because it matters, not the details exactly, just the pattern. By the time the story I actually need help with begins, I was already the kind of person who second guessed his instincts because too many people had lied to my face and then acted offended when I noticed. Then I met Mara. She started at work in late 2024. Bright, funny, impossible not to notice. She had a 10-year-old son, a rough past, and this way of making ordinary conversations feel warm. She liked me first, at least I think she did. And because I had spent years feeling like a half finished person, that mattered more than I should probably admit. We got close fast, not reckless fast, not teenage chaos, adult close, talking after work, weekend walks, music in the car, the kind of connection that feels less like fireworks and more like relief. She knew I smoked. She knew I was carrying around a lot of unfinished damage. But she also made me feel, for the first time in a while, like maybe I wasn't permanently stuck in it. So when she said she thought I would have to quit if we were ever going to build something real, I heard that as hope, not pressure. Last winter, things between us got serious enough that I made a stupid pressure soaked decision. My lease was ending. I had been staying at Mara's place a lot anyway. And instead of renewing my apartment or finding something temporary, I gave it up entirely. I told myself it was practical, that if things went badly, I could always figure something else out. That was the first domino. Because from the second I no longer had my own place, every conflict felt bigger. Every misunderstanding felt expensive. Every bad day became a threat to my entire life structure. At the same time, my younger sister Talia was imploding her own life. She's 29, chaotic, spoiled, endlessly dramatic in a way that always seems to leave someone else holding the trash bag. She had been renting a condo downtown, burned through 2 relationships in 1 year, maxed out a credit card she absolutely should not have had, and then showed up at my mother's house with 4 suitcases, a designer dog, and the energy of someone convinced the world had failed her. My mother is too generous for her own good. She let Talia move in for a few weeks. Those few weeks became months. And because I was between places and things with Mara were getting shakier, I ended up back there too. That house became unbearable almost immediately. Talia treated every shared space like a landfill with decorative lighting, clothes on the stairs, takeout containers in the sink, dog hair everywhere, overflowing garbage she would step around like it belonged to a different species. If the water jug ran out, she would order herself bottled water instead of replacing it. If the dog had an accident, she would put paper towel over it and claim she was getting to it. She charged groceries, gas, and God knows what else to our mother's card, then laughed about it like she was telling a clever joke. Living there while trying to save a relationship and quit weed felt like trying to heal in a room full of smoke. And then Mara lost her job. Management had started making her the office scapegoat for everything. I saw it happening and tried to compensate by working harder, staying later, being more careful, more productive, more useful. I thought if I could prove I was reliable enough, maybe the whole thing would stabilize. Instead, I became emotionally absent at the exact moment she needed me most. When her contract ended, she was devastated, and I was so locked inside my own pressure spiral that I could barely reach her. We broke up in the strange modern way people do when they are still attached and still talking and still hurting each other. Not clean, not final, just frayed. She kept telling me the same thing. If you quit smoking, maybe you'd finally show up for your own life. I hated hearing it, not because she was wrong, because I was terrified she was right. So in January, I quit. No dramatic speech, no big announcement, just 3 weeks off work, a garbage bag full of paraphernalia, and a body that immediately started acting like I had betrayed it. The dreams were brutal, the sweating, the insomnia, the mood crashes. I'd wake up every 2 hours and feel like I had been in a fist fight with my own nervous system. But I stayed clean. And because I stayed clean, I had no buffer anymore, no fog, no chemical softness between me and what my life had become. Mara, meanwhile, changed fast. She stopped drinking, started working out, cut off certain people, got disciplined in a way I honestly admired. And the healthier she became, the more obvious it was that I had attached way too much of my recovery to the idea of winning her back. That realization was humiliating. I didn't get clean because I loved myself. I got clean because I was desperate not to be left behind. While I was barely sleeping and trying to hold it together, Talia somehow got worse. She started bringing random men to my mother's house. One of them stole cash from my mother's kitchen drawer. Another smoked on the back patio and left cigarette burns in a chair cushion. Then Talia blamed the neighbor's kid. Her dog chewed the corner off a cabinet. She let laundry mildew in the machine for days. And if anyone confronted her, she would cry, call herself the family scapegoat, and then disappear for 12 hours while everyone else cleaned around her. Then came the part that made me stop seeing her as merely selfish. I found out she had been telling people I was unstable, not in a worried, loving way. Strategically, a mutual family friend mentioned casually that Talia was concerned because apparently I was newly sober, emotionally obsessive over my ex, and not really in a position to handle finances or housing decisions. That wording felt too precise to be random. Then my mother sat me down one evening and asked very gently whether I thought it might be smart to let Talia help manage the sale of our late grandfather's cabin. I just stared at her, That cabin was the one solid thing left from my grandfather's side of the family. A small lakeside place, nothing luxurious but valuable. And I was the one he had trusted with maintenance, taxes, keys, all of it. The idea that Talia should help was absurd on its face. She couldn't manage a litter box. When I asked where this was coming from, my mother got flustered and said Talia was just worried I might make impulsive choices while going through a lot. There it was again. The framing, not that I was grieving, not that I was rebuilding, that I was unstable, that my life was no longer fully mine to direct. I confronted Talia that night. She did what people like her always do. First, she laughed. Then she minimized. Then she attacked. She said she was the only one being realistic, that I had fried my brain for 20 years, that I had no apartment, no girlfriend, no plan, and should maybe be grateful someone competent was willing to step in. Competent. The woman who ordered bottled water instead of changing a jug looked me in the eye and called herself competent. I told her to stay away from anything involving the cabin of my finances or my work. She rolled her eyes and said, "You always think everyone's out to get you." And maybe that would have worked on an older version of me. The version that smoked, doubted, numbed, retreated. But sobriety had done one useful thing. It made patterns harder to ignore. Because she was right about one thing. I had been hurt by enough people to be suspicious. The difference now was that I finally had the clarity to tell the difference between paranoia and evidence. So I started checking. I locked down every account related to the cabin, changed passwords, confirmed deed documents, spoke directly with the lawyer handling the estate. Then I checked my credit. Talia had not opened anything in my name, thank God. But she had used my mother's card for thousands more than my mother knew about. And when I helped my mother go through the statements, it was like watching denial die in real time. Hair extensions, Botox, ride shares, hotel charges, dog daycare, weekend shopping sprees. My mother cried, not loudly, just the exhausted crying of someone who realizes love has been turned into a loophole. That should have been enough. It wasn't. Because once Talia realized the financial angle was closing, she went after my reputation instead. She told my aunt I had yelled at her for trying to protect the family. She told two cousins I was having some kind of relapse because I wasn't sleeping. Then, and this is what really pushed me over, she somehow got hold of Mara's number and messaged her. I only found out because Mara sent me a screenshot with, "Did your sister really just do this?" The message said, and I quote, "I know he's trying to make you feel guilty, but he's not well right now and gets attached in unhealthy ways when he's sober." I felt physically cold reading that because it was so deliberate, so specific. She wasn't just being messy anymore. She was building a version of me that would make her seem reasonable and me seem untrustworthy. I called her immediately. She let it ring out, so I walked downstairs. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, eating noodles straight from a takeaway box, while her dog pawed at the trash bag on the floor. I asked her why she messaged Mara. She shrugged and said I was helping. That word again, helping, the most dangerous word in certain families. I said, "You are done." She actually smiled and asked, "Crowd," or what? So I did the one thing I should have done months earlier. I told my mother everything, not emotionally, not in a rage, calmly, chronologically, with screenshots, card statements, the message to Mara, the attempts to position herself around the cabin, all of it. Then I said that if Talia stayed in the house, I was leaving and her mother could decide for herself whether she wanted to keep funding the person setting fires in every room and then calling herself the firefighter. My mother chose, for once, not to rescue the wrong person. Talia screamed, cried, called me cruel, called me jealous, called me bitter because my life was empty now. Then she tried one final trick and said that if she left, it would be on my conscience if anything happened to her. That almost worked. Not because I believed it, because people like her know exactly where to put the knife. But I held the line. She moved out 3 days later to stay with a friend she had already been talking about as basically toxic, which tells you everything. The house got quiet, not fixed, just quiet. And in that quiet, I realized something I'm still trying to process. Sobriety did not save my relationship. It did not save my career. It did not magically transform me into a man with a 5 year plan, an inner peace, and matching Tupperware lids. What it did do was remove enough noise that I could finally see who was building a life with me and who was feeding on the confusion. Update: Mara and I are not back together. Maybe we never will be. That hurts, but I'm trying to be honest about it instead of romanticizing pain into destiny. Work is still shaky. I'm still tired all the time. I still have nights where I want to switch my brain off so badly I could scream, but I got a short term rental. I am still clean. The cabin is safe. My mother is in therapy, which frankly should have happened years ago. And Talia is no longer using the family like an ATM with emotional blackmail attached. For the first time in a long time, my life does not look impressive. It looks small, quiet, a little lonely, a little embarrassing in places, but it is mine. And after years of numbing myself, betraying myself, and letting louder people tell me who I was, that matters more than I can explain. I used to think getting clean would give me back the life I lost. Now, I think maybe the real point was different. Maybe sobriety was never about restoring the past. Maybe it was about making me clear eyed enough to stop handing the future to people who had no intention of protecting it.